Set it up. Before I do the letter from a Birmingham jail, there's some history that I have to speak to. And one of the things I know is that if you are over 35, 40, I am preaching to the choir. If you are under 35, 40, I'm preaching to you because I'm exposing things that we only talk about once a year, this time of year. But I'm going to connect a certain year with 2026. And you'll know a little bit more when I get started, but I haven't gotten started yet. We're going to wait till about 5 after. If my watch is correct, it's 12 o'clock now, okay, for those who are late. Oh, afterwards we can have a Q&A. We can talk about Dr. King. We can talk about James Baldwin, Malcolm X, whoever you want to talk about. One thing I do know, or I have spent the last 17 years writing about heroes of Georgetown, particularly African-American heroes. And I made a presentation to the school district, the new superintendent, about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. Why? Because I realized that I've written about 42, at least 40 heroes of Georgetown. Many of you, particularly if you're my age or older, you know these people. But I went out my way to write about them either in my books or in my articles. Most of you know that I write for Gab News. I also have written for the Georgetown Times for many years. And when I uncover unsung heroes, I write about them. Why? Because in my mind, the Black experience is the greatest story that's really never been told. And what is a hero? A hero is not necessarily who we see on television or we all read about or whatever. A hero is someone whose spirit is bigger than their circumstances. And they decide that I'm going to do something, like Rosa Parks, like a lady from, I believe it was Columbia, that just died two days ago. A hero all around us. One of my books, and I have several of my books there. I don't have all of them. But in fact, Joe, can you bring me the 12 and the 24, please? Thank you so much. All right. This one was actually written last year, this one a few years ago. This one says, 12 forgotten heroes your children should know. Who are these people? Many of you know them, some of you don't. Nicholas Jerome Home, or Jerome Nicholas Home. What did he do? Anybody?
Started Brownsburg Water Company.
Hello. All right. Mama Till, Matilda Martin. Come on, give it to me. No? Huh? A nursing home, a rest home. She took it upon herself. I've done tours with Marilyn Hemingway. I've done many tours of Georgetown. And we run into buildings like the Bowley building, the Rainey building, people with credentials behind their name. But I like what Dr. King said. Somebody asked him one time, said, Dr. King, you are a great man. How do I become great? He said, oh, that's easy. He says, all you need to be great, you don't need your verbs and nouns to agree. You don't need this and you don't need that. All you need is a heart full of grace. Matilda Martin, this sweet woman, Christian service woman, opened up her home, which was on the corner of Meeting and Prince Street. This is during the 60s and 70s, maybe 60s too, and 80s. And opened it up for people who are trying to transition and had no other place to go. They were homeless, women who had children and didn't have a place to lay their head. She had a big rambling house, and she invited them to stay there. And she did this without any support from the government. There was no GoFundMe or all of the other things that people have. Google this and Lincolnton that. She did this. So I consider her a hero. And when I'm doing a tour, I can say a lot about Joseph Haynes Rainey. I can say a lot about James Bowley. And some of these people are known. You can look it up, you can Google it, you can go in the newspaper, you can go in the archive, you can go in the library, but I dare you to find something on Matilda Martin other than my book. So that's what I like to do. I've got Minnie Kennedy. She marched with Dr. These people are from Georgetown, by the way. She marched with Dr. King. She graduated from Howard back in probably 1933, and she got a job teaching. There were very few options. You either did domestic work or you taught or you go up north. She got a job teaching, but she was disenchanted. She said, I can make more money than the peanuts they're giving me. And when she got to New York, she ran into a fella by the name of Martin Luther King, and she said that changed the whole world. She was a good friend of my dad and a good friend of me, of mine. This fella, that's a fella that probably very few people know. His name is William Sinclair, William Albert Sinclair. Who was he? He was born in Georgetown in 1858, enslaved, of course, and at the time, they separated his mother and father, which made him to grieve. But then, when his father came back, the family reunited, and he was happy as any child could be. But soon, his father was lynched. And he said something that a great writer says. He said, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And what did William Albert Sinclair do? He joined up and helped start the NAACP. Now, I know some of you say, well, that was W.B. Du Bois. There was another lady, a white woman, that also helped with that. And I'm going to be talking about that when I do a presentation, that there were two groups. But eventually, in 1909, it became the NAACP. And of course, I have Florence Williams. Where did Joe go? Chris, can I get, never mind, I think I have it. I got it. All right. Who was Florence Williams? Florence Williams, literally 100 years ago, started a hospital here in Georgetown on Duke Street, right next to the old Howard School, between Wood and, what was that, King Street. And she had a dream. She was working in a hospital as a nurse, and that hospital closed. And when she got home, one night she had a dream. And in her dream, she was walking down the street with a bundle of sheets and towels and laundry. Again, this is one of the few options that we had. And she was taking it to a house on Church Street. And when she got to the house, all of this is a reverie, all of this is a dream. When she got to the house, she said, in the front of the house, there was a white man sitting at the desk. And then the white man said to her, in the dream, it is not here. It's in the colored department. And in the dream, she said the colored department was behind a partition. And behind that partition was a man sitting. There were 3 cots, C-O-T-S. And on one of those cots, there was a man sitting there. Florence described him as the shadow man. The shadow man said to Florence, this is verbatim, there is a great work for you to do, but you cannot do it without me. You must always put me first. You must always let me help you. And if you let me help you, I will see that it's done. Florence went home. She pondered the dream. She never told anybody. One day, very soon afterwards, she ran into a very popular doctor in Georgetown. Had a very good relationship with the black community. His name is Dr. F.A. Bell. Some of you may know that name. Dr. Bell said, Florence, how are you? Florence says, I'm doing okay. Dr. Bell said, Florence, you are an excellent nurse. I've got a little colored boy that is suffering from lockjaw, and you're such a good nurse. I know if you take him into your home, he'll get better. Florence agreed. The boy got better. Florence took that as a message, sheet music from heaven to say, this is what God wants me to do with my life. She started with one bed in 1926. By 1938 or 39, she had 25 beds. She had 2 wards, one colored, one not. She had a maternity ward. She had doctors, both white and black, that operated in her place. But the other thing I like about Florence Williams is that she never charged anybody a penny. And believe me, if you think people are poor now, you should know how poor it was in Georgetown in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. But she never turned poor people away. Now, I didn't tell you this, but there was no other hospital in Georgetown. We're so used to hospitals. The closest hospital would have been Florence, South Carolina, or Charleston. Florence Williams took it upon herself to serve the poor. And there's an old saying, God helps those that help themselves. One day she was struggling. She said, Lord, I'm doing what you told me to do, but I'm drowning in debt. And the Lord answered her by those people who had money to pay for their surgery or their operation, and 2 millionaires. Today they would be billionaires. One is named Bernard Baruch from Hopcourt Barony, and the other is named Ann Huntington from Brook Green Gardens. People want to help you if they see you doing good. Amen. And that's what they did. That hospital existed from 1926 to 1954 when the new hospital, or the Georgetown Hospital, Memorial Hospital, was built. Florence Williams helped train nurses to get their nurse's degree. Florence Williams helped CCC workers. Steve, what are CCC workers? Civilian Conservation Corps. That's FDR, New Deal program. Because again, we were in the midst of a depression, people needed jobs. And what he did, he said every young man between the ages of 18 and 26 can get a job. All of the roads and that paved and the trees and the parks and all of that we see on Waccamaw Neck, that was developed during the Roosevelt administration. And then when they got sick, if you're working outside, something could happen. These black workers could not return to the hospital in Myrtle Beach, and they certainly didn't want to go all the way to Florence or Charleston, so they brought it to Florence Williams Hospital, depending on the thing. And there's some things that they couldn't do there. So Florence Williams is a hero. And about 6 months ago, I got a call from somebody who was born and raised in Georgetown, and they said, Mr. Williams, I want to do something for Florence Williams. And I said, God, thank you, because before I leave this earth, I too wanted to do something for Florence Williams. We decided we were going to be putting up a marker right there where the old Howard School and the Florence Williams Hospital is. I'm just waiting for Columbia to give us the okay. We've already written, I did the petition, and they told me sometime in the spring they'll be able to get to our petition. And when that happens, Lee Jean, I'm going to invite everybody from here to Timbuktu. I'm going to invite the school district. I'm going to invite the sororities. I'm going to invite the fraternities. I'm going to invite the hospital workers. I'm going to invite the library, and I hope to have the reception right here where we're sitting. So look for it. All I need is for God to spare my life. And even if he doesn't, the other partner I'm working with. And you have to do a 50C when you do a 501C. We leaned on Florence Williams. And Florence Lennon. Am I saying it right? Florine Lennon. Now, you all know she was a hero. I have her in several of my books. She's known as the diabetes lady. So she just passed. She and I were on her last program. And she said, Steve, I'll be happy to do it, to sponsor it. So I invite you all to come back in May, June, I'm not sure. I say all that to say this. I have some books back here. Some of them are on sale. Some of them I don't have extra copies. But I do have a flyer, and you can always get my books on social media or online, so to speak. This one is not ready yet. It's ready, but I'm not going to release it until I get the okay from Columbia. And it's for children, but it's a true story. It's chock full of colors. There's a picture of the old Howard. There's Meharry Medical Center, where a lot of her nurses that she trained went. This is the Great Depression. That's a picture of the maternity. This is an actual picture of the hospital, of the hospital, okay? And I like the color. I like that it's very, very small paragraphs, and it's excellent for children. Don't tell anybody, but I'm going to be giving these away. I'm going to get sponsors, so it's not coming out of our pocket. But I hope to give out hundreds of these because God has been good. All right. Let's get started. I certainly do. But, okay, just let me know, because I don't have everybody, but I got most. I also have my own father in here. He was known as Mr. NAACP, Reverend Herbert L. Williams. All right, let's watch this 6-minute video, and then let me set up a few things before I talk about a letter from a Birmingham jail. Oh, thank you.
No worries, sir.
Here. There's the volume. Volume.
Looks like it's up his eyes a little
Yeah.
bit. You can use the
Okay. Okay. Can you all hear this? Good.
Physical death is the price that some must pay. Free our children from a permanent psychological death, then nothing shall be more redemptive. We shall overcome. For the victory won, some will be misunderstood and called bad names and dismissed as rabble rousers and agitators. But we shall overcome.
Values they've got. No, it is not enough for the many years they've given, nor the pain that was driven by the harvest that they reaped. But there can never be a fitting
Thank you.
alloy, metal, or gold that can repay them for a job well done and a spirit that ran so deep. Still, we say thank you, though we are for sure a few generations later.
That's good.
We will never renege on their deeds. We are committed by our faith. While the world looked at Martin and Malcolm X, pondering the question, who's going to be next, there was no mention of you, as if they acted alone. No mention of the sacrifices that you gave, nor the lives that were saved, or the tremendous courage that was shown. So this one is for you, that marched behind the scenes, where there was no exposure, no camera, and no press, no film at 11 or Stairway to Heaven. Still, you've given us your very best. Because God uses ordinary people. You were just a plain old ordinary guy. But oh, how you did try to right the wrongs that plagued our lives. You protested with your sit-ins and your boycotts. Sometimes there was violence, and sometimes not. When you turned the other cheek, you found out that it hurts just the same. Some of you were beaten over the head, and even some of you were dead, but your dying was not in vain. It was you who carried your weight on your shoulders for us, singing, we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around, while you made this world a better place for all races to live in. Still, you do not wear a crown. You are an unsung hero, and the moral arc of justice is long. There was much need for marching and planning, marching and standing and plotting and planning. Oh, there was much need to be strong. Though we hate to look back, it was really you that took us from Negro to black as you cried out, "We shall overcome." But if somehow we overcame, it is a sad shame how quickly we forget where we came from, how soon we forget our history and the real people who made it so. Those people responsible for our progress, the unsung heroes like you that far too many of us simply do not know.
I don't know how many of you do social media.
Before this victory is won, some will have to get thrown in jail some more, but we shall overcome. Don't worry about us before the victory.
Good. I have an extra check for you. I said if you're over 35, 40, I'm preaching to the choir. And if you're younger than that, and I don't mean to call out any age, but I don't see anybody here under 30. I could be wrong. But if you are, you might know that there's a fad. There's a thing on TikTok and YouTube called the Scoot. Anybody ever heard the Scoot? And it's a gospel song. It's only about 10 seconds long. And it starts out, something about the Holy Ghost, something about the Ghost. And then they stop in the middle and they scoot. It's very funny. Very good. When I hear that music, I want to scoot. But in my house, there's nobody to see me scoot. All right. There is an old saying, even older than I, that says, and I want you to finish this, I think most of you know this saying, those who don't know their history are, say it loud, those who don't know their history are, all right. Now, that's why it's so important, and that's why I'm so happy to be here today. The person that invited me, the person that is roughly 95% responsible for this exhibit, is a wonderful young lady who's trying to hide, but Ashley, don't hide. Ashley Reed. Y'all give her a hand, please. she invited me to speak, and she thought it not robbery to go out of her way to put this exhibit together, to put the speakers together. And as you know, it's pulling a wagon up the hill is cumbersome, it's hard. But it's much harder than rolling that wagon down the hill. When you put a program together, it's a lot of work, a lot of unseen things. I'm telling you stuff you already know. But sometimes people can't see the phone calls, the paperwork, the nails in the wall, the PA system. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So I'm so appreciative that we do this. Why? Because we only have about one time a year to appreciate some of this civil rights struggle. And it's getting more and more challenging because they're trying to erase a lot of it. Second, they're trying to, you don't even see it on TV like you used to at other places. Unless your parents showed you, you wouldn't know a lot of this. Now, I want to talk about the year 1963. 1963 was one of the most pivotal years in the history of our country. Not just the civil rights movement, but in the history of America. We say that 1965 and 1964 is or was probably the most influential part of the civil rights movement. Some even say 1955 with Rosa Parks. But I'm here today to tell you that none of that compares to 1963. Why, Steve? Because in 1963, three things happened that shaped and changed America. Dr. King's letter to a Birmingham jail was brilliantly written, but it was also very prophetic. I don't know if you noticed, but you will notice in that 6-minute clip, it expressed, or is visually expressed, what we were dealing with in America. All right? Some of the things, again, are trying to be erased. And I'll make the connection in a minute. But let's go back to 1963. Three things that happened in 1963 that we should never, ever, ever, ever forget. In April of 1963, Dr. King was arrested for protesting for our rights. And he was locked up in a Birmingham city jail. A month later, this is the second thing, in May of 1963, Dr. King gave the okay to have a children's march because he was locked up. He caught hell. A lot of people say, how could you put our babies in harm's way? Why would you do that? Dr. King, like he said on here, our kids need to participate in our freedom because psychologically they're already in prison. And they're going to die psychologically if we don't change America. And he also knew something else. They did have the march, but you and I remember it. Why? Because of the television cameras. We remember the fire hoses on our young kids. We remember the dog bites. We remember the police sticks. That changed America. Why? Because a lot of people thought that the civil rights movement was a small movement. But then they found out that this is not just a national, but an international movement for rights. And one thing we cannot stand is to see children unnecessarily suffer. Because of the cameras, the civil rights organization grew exponentially. Steve, what's the connection to today? Minnesota. Well, I could say Los Angeles, I can say Chicago, I can say a lot of cities. But when enough people see what's going on television, they say it's time to activate, it's time to do something. We don't see with our eyes. We see with our minds. I'll say that again. We do not see with our eyes. There's an old saying, what a fool believes, a wise man can reason away. There's been a lot of reasoning away lately. What you thought you saw with your eyes, half of the country says, oh yeah, she tried to run him over. The other half said, no, she did not. She did not purposely. And television is what brought people out, all right? So, when they saw our children being beaten, put in paddy wagons, fire hose, all of that. Let's go to 1964. 1964 was the Voting Rights Act, the Voting Rights Bill. What did that do? That allowed blacks to vote because for 100 years we were disenfranchised. The states were not, southern states were not giving us that opportunity, so the federal government, through the hard work of blood, sweat, and tears through civil rights leaders, including Dr. King, came up with the Civil Rights Act. What's the connection today? Well, the connection today is that the Supreme Court has gutted all of that, literally. All right, let's go to 1965. 1965, the Civil Rights Act was passed. And people think, many people think that the Civil Rights Act was just for black folks. No, that was the beginning of rights for every other person or minority in America other than white men. White women, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, all of them benefited then and are still benefiting from it now. All right? Dr. King wasn't prejudiced. He understood that if we're going to change this country and we're all going to be able to sit down and have what we call a more perfect union, that had to be done. Today, 2026, that's a dirty word. Civil rights, that's a dirty word. They have you believe that there's something wrong with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, it just means that they're trying to catch up, all right? And now they're saying, well, I didn't get into this school, I didn't get into that school because I'm not black. That's nonsense. We spent 300 years not being able to get into anything, all right? Now, we say maybe the Supreme Court will help us. This is the same court that started segregation under Plessy versus Ferguson, all right? The third thing that happened, well, the second thing that happened in 1963, well, that was a children's march. The third thing, no, I'm sorry. The March on Washington in August of 1963, the I Have a Dream March. But 1 month later, in September, the third tragic thing that happened during that movement, many of you know it, the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. 4 little girls were killed during Sunday school. That's why I thank Ashley for putting this together. We need to see this. We need to see this. If you are of Jewish heritage, you find out at a very early age about the Holocaust. You don't wait till their children get to school to tell them the history of the Holocaust. But with our children, some of our parents are not telling them what we went through. And even if we do, we only do it about this time of year, but they literally killed 4 little girls. This is all part of the struggle. So before I get to the letter from a Birmingham jail, I want to say this. This is from a woman named Mary Overton Wright. Who is Mary Overton Wright? Mary Overton Wright was a white woman. Mary Overton Wright came from an abolitionist family, and Mary Overton Wright wanted to do something about the lynching and all that was going on in 1909, 1908. And she wrote a letter which asked people of goodwill to come together and do something about it, particularly because some of the lynching was in Springfield, Illinois, the home state of Abraham Lincoln. And that conference turned out eventually to be the NAACP, along with W.E.B. Du Bois. But in her letter, I guess it was not called a letter, it was called a manifesto. She said, if Mr. Lincoln could revisit the country, he would see disheartened by the nation's failure in this respect. He would learn that on January the 1st, 1909, Georgia had rounded out a new oligarchy by disenfranchising the Negro after the manner of all other Southern states. He would learn that by law, they disallowed or discriminated openly, enforced in such manner that white men only had the right to vote, and black men had no rights and no participation in the government. She went on to say, if Mr. Lincoln was living, he would see the black man and black woman for whom freedom 100,000 soldiers gave their lives, set apart on trains in which they paid first-class fares but third-class service. Lastly, she added to this, the spread of lawless attacks upon the Negro, North, South, and West, even in Springfield, made famous by President Lincoln. Silence, according to her, under these conditions means tacit approval. Now, this was written in 1908. NAACP was established in 1909, still the greatest civil rights organization ever developed. But I can tell you, between the end of Reconstruction, which is roughly 1877, up until about 1955, blacks in America, particularly in the South, were completely disenfranchised from the government. That spearheaded the civil rights movement. Thank God, Dr. King came along at the right time. And so now, I'm going to go into the letter. While in a Birmingham jail, Dr. King received a letter from Christians, so-called Christians. And in the letter, they criticized him and his work. And again, Dr. King brilliantly responded. And this is one of the most famous letters in the world now. And it says, my fellow clergymen, while confined here in a Birmingham jail, it has come to my attention that some of you believe that my coming to Birmingham was unwise and untimely. Some have even accused me of being an outsider who've come here to stir up trouble. Well, said Dr. King, seldom do I stop to answer my critics or the people that criticize my work, because if I did, neither I nor my secretary would have any time to do anything else. But since I believe that you are men of goodwill and that your criticism is sincere, I should like to take this time to answer some of your questions. Dr. King said, the first question you asked me is, why am I in Birmingham? Well, He responded by, I have the distinct honor. One of the reasons I'm here is I have this distinct pleasure and the honor of being the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Council. It is a conference. It is a civil rights organization headquarters in Atlanta, but we operate in every southern state. I cannot idly sit by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what's going on in Birmingham. Birmingham, said Dr. King, is probably the most thoroughly segregated city in America. There has been a segregated city in these yet to be United States. There have probably been more unsolved bombings of black churches, no, he didn't say black, Negro churches and Negro homes than any other place in this country. So much that the Negroes in Birmingham stopped calling it Birmingham and we say Bombingham now. So why am I here in Birmingham? I am in Birmingham because injustice is in Birmingham. And I say to you that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. My fellow clergymen, you've asked me, why? Why must you always have to protest and march? Every time we're seeing some sort of protest, especially during this, our Easter season. Dr. King answered them, and he said, well, we've tried to sit down at the table of brotherhood and peacefully resolve our problems. When we were last here during the Christmas season, we sat down with the merchants and city leaders, and we kindly asked them would they kindly remove the ugly and divisive signs of white only. This is for white, that is for white. And they assured us that but here we are in the season of in the resurrection season of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And you are still seeing these signs everywhere. We've come to be the victims of a broken promise. So we are returned and we will not give up until justice rolls down like a mighty stream. The last question that they asked him, said, my fellow clergymen, the last question that you asked me is perhaps the most meaningful one yet. That is the question why we cannot wait. Well, you have to understand that just this morning, I received a letter from one of our ministers down in Texas, one of our white brethren, and he said in the letter, Dear Dr. King, everyone knows, all Christians know that blacks will eventually receive equal rights. But is it possible, Dr. King, that you are in too much of a religious hurry? Dr. King, it took 2,000 years for the Christianity to accomplish what it has today, and it may take a little longer for the teachings of Jesus Christ to come to earth. Dr. King responded. He said, oh, that kind of thinking comes from the irrational misconception of actually what time is. That kind of thinking comes from the irrational notion that there's something in the very flow of time that will cure all evils. He said that kind of thinking comes from the strange notion that of those who feel that they can set the timetable for another man's freedom. Those who are constantly telling the Negro, you must wait for a more convenient season. But Dr. King said, we can't wait. That word wait has been around forever. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. That word wait has always been what you've been telling us. We have waited for 340 years for our God-given right. And there comes a time where the cup of endurance runs over and men and women are no longer willing to be plunged into the pool of injustice. Dr. King said this. He said, it must be easy for you to say wait. I guess if you never felt the stinging dots of segregation, it's okay to say wait. Oh, but when you've seen vicious mobs link your mothers and fathers and drown your brothers and sisters, when you've seen hate-filled policemen kick, curse, and kill your brothers and sisters with impunity, When you're driving across the country and night after night and day after day, you find yourself having to sleep in the uncomfortable quarters of your automobile because no hotel will accept you. When you are inundated and humiliated all the time about this is just for whites, white this and white that. He said, when you find your tongue twisted and your speech stammered as you have to explain to your 6-year-old daughter who has just seen an advertisement on television about a place called Funtown, amusement block, and you have to sit down and see the tears rolling up and welling up in her little eyes, and you have to say, baby, Funtown, it's not for colored children. When you see 20 millions of your brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty, and this the richest country in the world, when you see them so beat down, stooped over, and void of self-respect that because segregation, brutal unkindness has left them with a disease called possibility blindness, and they can't even dream about a better world. When your first name is nigger, and your last name is boy, and your wife, and your mother never ever is given the opportunity or the title of Mrs., then, my clergyman, maybe you'll understand why we cannot wait. You say to me, Dr. King, you are an extremist. Well, I don't mind being an extremist, says Dr. King. Wasn't Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego extremists when they refused to bow down for Nebuchadnezzar and they put them in the oven? Wasn't the early Christians fed to the Roman lions because they will not turn their back on their Christianity? Wasn't Paul, who sat in prison waiting to be beheaded? And what about my Jesus who died on the cross for us? Wasn't he an extremist? I say to you that if a man has not discovered something worth dying for, then he is not worth living. No, my fellow clergymen, we cannot wait. Now is the time for us to work together, pray together, march together, go to jail together, to stand up together. Now is the time for all good men, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, to get together and sing the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're going to be free at last. Thank you. Lily Jean, I'm getting older. We all are. And the doctor told me, Steve, don't get too passionate. Because if you do, your defibrillator will go off. And you will be embarrassed. So I tried to time it. I've done this, God, at least 13 times. Now I've just told all of Georgetown that I have a defibrillator. Because I know they're taping it. I don't care.
I can edit it out.
Well, please do. Shh, y'all don't tell everybody. Oh, Lord. This is funny. You're going to have to edit this, too.
Okay.
I was in the Carvers Bay Library about 3 or 4 months ago. And I was doing a children's story called The Eagle and the Chicken and the Eagle. And I'm like both of you who know my dad or knew my dad. I'm just passionate. I already have a loud voice, and I was into it. I was performing. And this thing said, and I sat down. But in front of these little babies, I let a curse word out. I said, oh, sugar, honey, iced tea. And this little 4-year-old girl, now I just had to calm down, which I did. But this little girl came to me like a half an hour later, you all right? You all right, Mr. Steve? I said, I'm fine. Ever since then, she calls me every month. She's 4 years old. Yeah. So I said, next time I do any speeches, I'm just going to take my time. All right. At this point, if you have any questions, we got about 10 minutes. Again, my books are back there. Some of them are available to purchase now, most of them. Can we give out those flyers now? Thank you. Most of them you can get online. And of course, you all know me. I live here in Georgetown. So you can also call me. All right. Again, I'm so happy to be here for this occasion. I wish there were more young people to see our story. But one thing I am very proud of as I look at my phone and social media, there's a lot of Dr. King events going on around this state and this country, and that's a good thing. It really is. All right. Are there any concerns, questions, anything at all? We good? Give yourself a hand. Thank you. Don't forget to edit that.
No problem, it's in the tape, so I'll see it.
Ended in Georgetown and all over the South. They want to say if it wasn't for the Freedmen's Bureau, we would have went under. No. One of my books called Two Things Can Be True at Once. You'll see it back there. And it talks about how Bethel, AME, and the rest of the black community saved Georgetown between 1865 to 1900. Why? There was no Atlantic Coast Lumber Company. There was no paper company. There was only black folk. 90% of it, you know why, was black. And not even counting the Sea Islands, where they even have more industrious, skilled trade workers. But what happens, they say, how did they learn that? They were doing this during the antebellum period. The houses and churches and so much that we see around Georgetown were literally built by enslaved people. And so after the war, we just did what we always did. And Georgetown survived. There was, Louis G knows this, she was a part of CAHO many years ago when they put out an exhibit that there were over 40 black businesses on Front Street, you see? And this is not just Georgetown. The original Howard was started by black folks. That's one of my books called The Lost Story of Howard. Some people argue with me down. No, it was Howard. I said, do you know who Howard was? They don't know. So I'm not saying that this is bringing other people down. That's bringing us up because people think all we did was catch rice and all that other stuff, which we did. But we had skills. We had blacksmiths, carpenters. We had everything we needed to survive. And on the Sea Islands, oh my God, you weren't coming off the island. So if you need anything, clothing, a house, whatever, you did it. And you did it for centuries. So this book, I say all that to say this. He built 100 ships and made a fortune. And he's a hero. He's big up in New Bedford. Little Steve is trying to get this into the Georgetown County school system. And I'm asking you, because a lot of you know the superintendent better than I, to help me. I think every library and every school should have this book, because this is a true American hero. I already told you about Florence Williams, and if I run into any more heroes, God willing, I'll write about them too. It's called From Slavery to Shipwright. Tell the superintendent.
It's not.
All right, we have a person coming in 2 minutes, so I'm going to clear out. Oh, she's here. That's you, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you Reese?
John Collins.
John, okay.
We met at another one of your talks. I'm the new president of Friends of the Andrews Library.
Okay,
I'm really trying to bring some back.
good.
So I want you to come back to the room.
Great job.
Okay, you got it.
Oh, like I'm doing it fast.
Pretending it all right.
Mr. Williams?
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I'm coming back. Just want to clear out some things.
You're
Did I lose
leaving?
anything? I don't think so.
No, I just brought it to you.
Okay, thank you.
What's okay? Oh, okay.